The apartment next door is empty again. When we first moved in, our neighbours were a middle-aged doctor and his girlfriend. Carrying all our furniture upstairs proved to be quite the challenge, so we were happily surprised when he offered to help. Although we didn't talk much that day, beyond pleasantries, he seemed like a nice guy. I saw him around a few times after that, bumping into him while checking the mailbox or going down the stairs. He'd smile and nod, and I'd smile back. As far as the neighbours go, he was one of the good ones. I'm not the most social person, however, so it took me some time to realise that I hadn't seen him in a while. I asked my boyfriend and got the same answer from him. If our neighbour had been outside recently, our paths hadn't crossed. Neither of us worried about it. We could hear him moving around after all, and it wasn't like we were close. Over the next few weeks, little grievances started to pile up in regards to our neighbour. He'd step out in the middle of the night, activating the automatic lights that filtered in through the bedroom window. Sometimes he'd bang on the shared wall in the middle of the day. Always twice in rapid succession, but never at a set time. I was tempted to bang back, but figured it wasn't worth a potential argument. The strangest thing I remember is seeing his shadow through our front door on a particular night in September. It wasn't unusual, seeing as he had to pass our door to reach his own, but when I went to the toilet half an hour later, I noticed the shadow was still there. That was the first time an uneasy feeling came over me. As suddenly as the disturbances had started, they disappeared again. Everything was quiet for 2 weeks, and my boyfriend and I were grateful for this newfound peace. The for rent sign appeared at the start of the third week. Neither of us took much notice of it, aside for a passing comment. We expected to hear the doctor and his girlfriend move out at one point, but we never heard or saw them again. The next set of neighbours got on our nerves from day one. They had a young child with them, and appeared to believe that proper parenting included regular screaming matches. We learned to tune them out over time, and by the time December rolled around, their voices had become little more than background noise. I saw them for the first time while returning from a shopping trip on a chilly December afternoon. A tight-lipped smile was the only greeting I could muster up for them, but they didn't appear to notice. They kept looking straight ahead and past me without a word. I remember the shiver that ran down my neck to my spine when they were right next to me. Although the uncomfortable feeling remained as my eyes followed the couple, I couldn't bring myself to look away. I watched them reach the door and stand motionless for a good 3 minutes before the husband fished his keys out of his pocket and opened the door. When the time came for me to walk to my own front door, I made sure I had my keys ready. As far as unlocking the door and throwing yourself inside goes, I'm sure I broke the record that day. The banging started not long after, always twice, never at the same time. I brought it up to my boyfriend, who brushed it off as one of the disadvantages of apartment living. I didn't tell him about the hint of fear that was growing in the pit of my stomach, afraid he'd laugh at my paranoia. You see, I'm the type of person that likes to watch a horror movie, but can't walk down the hallway alone after doing so. Not the bravest of the bunch by any means. Working from home meant that I had plenty of time to sit and worry about every single noise I heard, or more specifically, didn't hear. The screaming had stopped by then, and however unusual it may be, I kind of missed it. There was only silence and the periodic banging against the wall. I took to working with music in the background. The lights outside came on at 4:37 a.m. on a Tuesday. I remember because I had to use the toilet and would have stayed in bed if it had been closer to the time I'd normally wake up. Ready to go right back to sleep after relieving myself, I didn't bother turning on the lights in the hallway. I rounded the corner and found myself looking right at the shadow of what could have only been a child, swaying gently back and forth. The toilet, which is only a few steps from our front door, suddenly seemed to be miles away. As badly as I had to go, my feet were glued to the floor. The thought of taking even a single step closer to that shadow made me feel sick to my stomach. I slowly backed away and returned to the bedroom. Despite my reservations, I ended up shaking my boyfriend awake. think the neighbour's kids are standing outside," I told him. "It's freezing. Should we call the police?" My boyfriend, disoriented and still half asleep, stumbled towards the front door. I followed a few steps behind, ready to make a run for it. "Are you sure you didn't imagine it?" he asked me. The light was still on, but the shadow was no longer there. I shook my head. If there was one thing I was certain of, it was that someone had been standing there only minutes ago. "All right, I'll take a look outside." He moved to get the keys, and I felt nausea return tenfold. "No," I said quickly, grabbing hold of his arm. "You're probably right. I must have been imagining it. Let's just go back to bed." The rational part of my brain told me I was a horrible person leaving a child outside in the cold at this hour, but I kept my mouth shut. I felt in my gut that opening the door wasn't safe. I didn't end up going to the toilet after all that night. The fourth couple moved in a month and a half ago. I'm used to it now, the banging, the shadows, the ever-present chill that doesn't seem to go away, the return of the for rent sign, and the new tenants. Rinse and repeat. I tried a couple more times to talk about it with my boyfriend, but he doesn't seem to pick up on any of these occurrences. We're looking at houses now, and I can only pray we'll find one soon. I'll buy anything if it means I get to move out of this apartment. I no longer acknowledge new tenants because I fear they might end up inviting me inside. I guess I'll never know for sure, but I don't think the people who enter the apartment ever truly leave. Thank you for watching this video. If you want to support this channel, we have a link in the description for that. Don't forget to give a subscribe, a like, and press the bell to get notifications. Tell us your thoughts in the comments section. You can also send us your real or fictional horror stories.